the most talked about player was not anyone drafted in the first round. It wasn't anyone drafted in the second round or the third round or even the fourth round. I assume you know the most talked about player. You consume some of this, but maybe you're a little slow. You don't know. So the Cleveland Browns finally selected Shadur Sanders in the fifth round. The fifth round. 4 rounds later than every mock draft had said he was going to be picked. Following the plunge in his draft status, Shadur Sanders took an actual plunge. He reacted by dancing around and running and jumping into a swimming pool at what appeared to be a resort-style home, seemingly paid for by his daddy, Deion Sanders. All right, so the 144th player picked. 140. You got to keep the aura going, man. You got to keep the aura, even when you're picked number 144. And there are reports saying he had a massive party with all these influencers and rappers, people you really don't want to hang out with, the influencers. And they all got together and they had a grand time. Now, many conspiracy theorists have determined that even this pick at number 144 was not kosher. There was some funny business going on, that the owner stepped in for Cleveland and directed the Browns to make a trade to get the pick that turned out to be Shadur Sanders in the fifth round, the son of primetime. So let us discuss. I love a good conspiracy theory, so let's talk about it. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up, thumbs down on the Browns owner Jimmy Haslam meddling with Shadur Sanders and making sure that the Browns pick Shadur Sanders in the fifth round. So I've got Circle K, Oscar De La Hoya, and Bonfire. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make an overrated chant. Overrated. All right, so A, to answer the question, thumbs up, thumbs down on the owner of the Browns directing the team to take the player. Thumbs up. I'm going thumbs up on this. And while we have no direct evidence, we have a lot of circumstantial evidence, and you can be convicted on circumstantial evidence. You can. There's plenty of clues, plenty of them. And my supporting evidence on my claim, I call it Circle K. Kinesics, if you will. K for kinesics. Body language, the study of body movements and the art of the nonverbal communication, gestures, facial expressions, posture, eye contact, all that stuff, nonverbal clues. And in a clip that has gone viral, you have the general manager on the right of the screen, Andrew Berry. And then on the other side, you've got Kevin Stefanski on the left side of the screen. And neither one of them hid the fact that it looked like they were suffering from nausea as the pick was being made. Shadur Sanders, the announcement on television. Candid camera. We had a candid camera moment there, and it caught both these knuckleheads sitting there looking like they were about to have an aneurysm, like, oh, man, we're screwed. We are so cooked. This is not good. Now, in particular, Andrew Berry, the GM of the Cleveland Browns, he looked, as the late, great Brian Wheeler would say, distressed, distraught, and devastated by the pick of Shadur Sanders there. And Cleveland had passed over Shadur Sanders not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5. How about 6 times? They picked 6 other jabronis in the draft before they ended up picking Shadur Sanders. So 6 picks, didn't want the guy, but wait, there's more. The Browns owner has a history. If you look at what this guy has done, it's not out of bounds to think that this is exactly what happened. You look at the body language of Andrew Berry, and hey, I get it. If you spend $1 billion, these are just toys for rich people, these sports teams. And so you spend $1 billion and you want to treat it like a rotisserie football team. Go ahead. The Browns are the first team in the common draft era to take 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs in the first 5 rounds. It had never happened in the common draft era. Did this come from the Hobo Express? Remember, Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, famously said a homeless man convinced him to take Johnny Manziel years ago and said that was the deciding factor. So who knows? Maybe somebody down on Skid Row is advising the Browns to take Shadur Sanders, and there you go. All right, now, page 2. Will Shadur Sanders get a legitimate chance to start in Cleveland? He's a 5th-round draft pick, and he was the second quarterback selected, so you say, well, a 5th-round pick, probably not. I'm going to answer it by saying it's complicated. We are talking about the superstore of sadness. We changed the name over the weekend. Rare and appropriate, I jumped on the social media. I don't normally do that. I had some time. I jumped on there for some instant hot takes after the Shadur Sanders pick was made, and it's no longer the factory of sadness. It's the superstore of sadness there in Cleveland. The nuclear fallout zone, the Browns quarterback room. You talk about suffering from overcrowding. Man, they are packed in there like sardines at this point. There's already chatter that Joe Flacco, elite quarterback, is going to retire. But you got Joe Flacco, the creepy quarterback Deshaun Watson, he's hurt. Dylan Gabriel from Oregon, who famously said he hated playing in cold weather. Well, I'm sure it doesn't get cold in Cleveland in November and December, not in January, not that they make the playoffs. So you've got Dylan Gabriel, and he was the guy picked ahead of Shadur Sanders. That's a lot. You've got Kenny Pickett also in there. So you got a whole lot. Now, despite all that, I mentioned it's complicated. If my hypothesis is correct that this was the meddling owner of the Cleveland Browns, that the man who made his money on truck stops, the Flying J truck stop mogul, if the owner here was really behind this, then you have to say Shadur Sanders will absolutely get a chance to start by mid-season in Cleveland because he becomes the Oscar de la Hoya of the Browns. He is the golden boy of the Cleveland Browns, right? Handpicked by the owner. And everyone's talking about the Browns, and the owners love that, right? And he goes to those cocktail parties with other rich people, Jimmy Haslam, and everyone's, well, you drafted Shedeur. Is he going to play? Oh, of course he'll play. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. If that's correct, then he's got the inside track. Shedeur's got the inside track to start. Now, last word. So what is the main fallout from Shadur Sanders' catastrophic fall in the NFL draft? I don't know if catastrophic is the right way to describe it. We don't have any real empathy for Shadur Sanders. It made for good television over the weekend, and he came from money. He's living a charmed life, and he'll continue to live a charmed life. It doesn't really change his situation at all. It's embarrassing. If the NFL was trying to teach him a lesson, it appears they did not teach him a lesson because of the way that he reacted. He did not seem to be all that bothered by anything. And that's it. Everything happens for a reason. You probably heard that. Maybe your parents or some relative told you that when you were growing up. Everything happens for a reason. But sometimes the reason is you're stupid and you make bad decisions. That's why it happens, right? And Shadur Sanders, putting the pieces together, the clues that are out there, his epic collapse, while it is not only because of him, he enhanced the negativity, if you will, with his smarmy arrogance, and it made things worse. He treated the whole draft process like a nuisance, and all those anonymous reports. Remember the people, I can't believe these anonymous reports. Hey, this is a celebration. How dare you put... It turns out they were all right. All those anonymous, that Shadur Sanders was king of the douches, right? He was at the very top of the a-hole card, and he treated the GMs and the coaches that he did talk to like they were below him, like they were peasants. And the result of that is the NFL community said, okay, you're not good enough to do that, and we are not going to bother to take you early on. Right, and that he treated the people that make these decisions like the dregs of society, the lowest of the low, and he skipped the combine workout. He was arrogant. How can you disagree with these reports based on he was drafted in the 5th round? So the NFL coaches and GMs, they made an example out of him. And Shadur Sanders is the new cautionary tale. Now, in my life, there have been several players that fell down. When I was a kid, there was a guy named Dan Marino who apparently loved cocaine and other party stuff in the 80s, and when everyone was doing coke, and drafted much later than he should have been by the Miami Dolphins. And people said at the time it's because of this, and that was before the draft was a big deal. and they said he fell down. Aaron Rodgers. There have been other examples, but now the gold standard is Shadur Sanders. That this is it. Like any other player that falls down perceived value in the draft will be compared. Well, it could be worse. You could be Shadur Sanders. You could be Shadur Sanders. And the issue, again, is he was not good enough in college to overcome the smugness. If the same body of work had been there and he had a ability level like any of the greats in the draft, like any you go down the list of the players perceived to be can't miss in NFL history, if he had that, he still would have been drafted in the top 5. But when you combine the fact that he's an a-hole, he's arrogant, and he's really not all that good in terms of his skill set as it relates to the NFL, then you've got just what happened. You've got the perfect storm here. And the scouts noted that he does not have an elite arm in terms of NFL. By NFL standards, he's not elite. He's inconsistent with his accuracy on those shorter throws, which is pretty much most of the throws in the NFL, those little short throws. So you've got that. And it was also red meat. The other thing that was really annoying was we were told over and over by the race baiters in the media that this is a race issue over and over again. And I get it. They're engagement farming, and people get worked into a lather over that stuff. It was pretty ridiculous. Anybody with common sense knows that was not the issue involved in this. But the bottom line here, to put a price tag on how much being an a-hole cost Shadur Sanders, over $40 million. Okay, over $40 million is how much this jabroni lost. If you believe the mock drafts, all right, he had an unpermitted bonfire, Shadur Sanders, involving wealth that could have conceivably been his based on the mock drafts. He turned gold into ashes over the weekend and then jumped into a pool to celebrate when it was all done. Because, again, he comes from a rich family. Dion made a lot of money in the NFL. He's living in a resort-style home in Texas and all that. Shadur Sanders' slide cost him roughly $41 million in contract money had he been selected where he was originally supposed to be selected. So that is a very expensive lesson, which was not learned by Shadur Sanders. And now the beat will go on. This will continue on and on and on. If you'd like to comment about any of that, you can join us right now and say hello at 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. He was not the only one that was drafted lower or not drafted at all. Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, looked like he had his dog stolen when he was selected by, I believe, the Miami Dolphins there. Was not very happy with that. He thought he would be drafted much higher and could have stayed in college. That's the other thing, too, about this. Like, Shadur Sanders, if he had stayed at Colorado, would have, in college, would have made more money than he's going to make on his rookie contract. So it's break it down that way if you want.